You know what that means. It means it's time for your favorite show and mine, the Countdown to Armageddon, with your host today and every day is Publius. That's me. And today I'm going to take a break from my normal routine and talk to you a little bit about all sorts of things. First off, I want to talk to you about a generator. What is a generator? It's a source of power, folks. What I want you to look at and start thinking about is a solar power generator. Now there's several brands out there on the market. Some of them have one solar panel, some have as many as three. Now the advantage of a solar power generator is you got power. And depending on the type of generator system you got, it's got a built-in battery system that stores that power so that you can use it when the sun isn't out. Now, Publius is not a tree hugger. I like my guns. I believe in eating red meat. I am not no tree hugger. But when you're out there hunting and you've set up your tent and you're going to go out hunting, having a solar power generator means that you can, listen to music. You can do other things that require power. With that and, say, a satellite dish, you can still get internet, which means you can still download and watch the latest episode of Publius and Countdown to Armageddon. These are things that we're not talking cheap. Maybe some of them are as low as $200 and some of them are as high as $2,000. You get the products you need, and this will help you. Why? Because you need to prepare. I mean, let's face it, electricity is getting more and more expensive in this country. Solar power, depending on who you go to, may or may not be a great deal for you. My house, we got solar panels, and they got a built-in transformer on them. Problem is, there's not a whole lot of aspect of control in this. We'll go through a solar panel episode later, and what you should be looking at, in my humble opinion, when you're going solar. The point is, I want you to start thinking about things you can do to improve your life. Furthermore, things that you can do that are mobile, so that when the shit hits the fan, you can take off and go hide. Why do I say you want to hide? Because who is the real enemy? I don't always know. I live on a street, and sadly, the days of old where you knew everybody, knew all your neighbors, those days are gone. I don't know all my neighbors. And I live in a regular, normal community. If you live in an apartment complex, how many of you really know your neighbors there? Some of them you don't really want to know. The point is, you need to start thinking about provisions, helping yourself move forward. And in the short term, this brings you power for when you're out in the woods, that you can actually still download and watch my episodes. Now, something you might think about is, by having this, you have advantages now, but you would have even better advantages later. These are things that are short-term beneficial, but long-term even more beneficial. Other things that are in this nature, a laptop, things like this. This is just me spewing things that come up off my head. Now I'm going to go ahead and answer something that many of you are wondering. Why do I start my show with it's after 11 o'clock? Once upon a time, Publius was in the U.S. military. I was in the Army. I was stationed in Europe. And AFM, Armed Forces Radio Network, used to come on at 10 o'clock. Ding, ding, ding. It's 10 o'clock in Central Europe. Do you know where your kids are? Well, that little message always used to pop into my head. And all my life I've thought back onto that message. And now my message is, it's after 11 o'clock. Do you know what your government's doing? Now, I arbitrarily chose the time of 11. Actually, it wasn't arbitrarily. It was the way my household situation was. It was after 11 o'clock at night. My house is quiet. all the kids are asleep. They're all hiding in their rooms doing their things, and that's when peace arrives. Now, Publius is a night owl, but I've altered this since then. I do a lot of work through the day now. I do most of my recording in the day, and my general time that I get around to recording this episode and these episodes is after 11 a.m., right before I break for lunch. So that answers that question. That's why it's after 11. Why is this the countdown to Armageddon? Because, folks, we're screwed. If you look around you, we are screwed. The Democrats plan to use reconciliation to shove their crap ideas down our throats, whether we like it or not. And guess what? That's just going to screw us even more. The world is going to hell in a handbasket. And guess what? It's taking us with us. As things get worse, they're going to only get worse. And eventually, we're going to have that civil war. And when it does, I'm not positive things are going to come out so great afterwards. I don't see the U.S. staying as a single unit. I don't think it's advisable that we stay as a single unit with 50 states, because they don't represent each other. Nobody that lives in New England knows what it's like to live in the Southwest Desert. They don't know what we need. They don't understand our lifestyle, and vice versa. I'm sorry, if you live in El Paso or even Phoenix or any place in the Southwest Desert, you have no concept of what it's like to get feet of snow regularly. And that isn't even counting Alaska, where their idea of snow is totally different from ours. The thing is, we've gotten too diverse to where we don't understand each other. So when we break down into smaller units, are we going to be the same? No. We need to start thinking about having a life that's a little more sustainable. Yes, I'm going back to the eco-friendly conversation, because our present system is unrealistic. It's unsustainable. I'm not an eco-friendly nut. I'm not an eco-nut. Number one, I do believe in driving my car. Yes, I wish that the car was powered by something besides oil and gasoline. But until it comes out, until it's affordable, until it's economical, doesn't make sense. I like the idea of electric cars, but again, we don't have the infrastructure for it. Yeah, I know. Biden's talking about infrastructure. But most of it isn't being put in infrastructure. I mean, come on. Infrastructure includes pre-K now? We need to have kids in school from the time they're 3? Come on, let a little kid be a little kid. I mean, at 3 years old, all he wants to do is go outside and play. Or go on the Xbox. Not school. What, you got to program them from the age of 3 now? This has got to stop. And Biden's dream plans are stupid as shit. There are some things that I do agree. We do need to have and find ways to be less dependent upon gasoline and fossil fuels. But we need to do this with a brain, not with the Democrats. You listen to AOC and the rest of these wackos, and they want us to immediately stop using gas. There's no interim. There's no transition. And if we don't have a proper transitioning plan, we're not going to be able to do things. Solar panels, firmly believe in them. I'm going to do an episode on solar later. Wind power, love it. Water power, love it. There's got to be more sustainable methods for production of energy. But when we do this, that's going to require all of society to change. Our technology is going to have to change. The way we do business is going to have to change. Number one, the days of going to work at a factory, even that's going to have to change some, considering your factory right now runs 24/7. Why? because they're getting electricity off of a grid. What is that? How is that grid being charged? Right now, all too much grid power is done by coal. There's a very simple method to improve our grids, but those tree huggers are firmly against it. That's called nuclear. Nuclear power is a very sustainable long-term power system. There's a problem with it. Yes, that is the waste product. But I'm sure if you sit down and think about it, science can find ways. They just don't have a reason to. There's no economic benefit in researching things like this at the moment. We need to show the economic benefit. Folks, our lives are such delicate things that if we don't prepare for things in advance, we're going to end up on the wrong end of history. I don't want to be taken out like the dodo. I want to be around like the crocodile. If you don't get my reference, the dodo died. Crocodiles have been around millions of years. Think about it. I plan to be a survivor. And you do this by planning. You don't accidentally survive. You have to intentionally survive. Reality is not formable. What I mean by this is I can't sit there and say, no, I don't believe that's going to do this. That hurts my feelings. No, reality is reality. And you need to learn to accept reality as what it is and see it for what it is. Stop letting your utopian dreams try to change what reality is. Then you can look and move forward. Only if you accept reality as reality do you have any hope of changing it. You can change your reality, but that requires thought, planning, and intent. You can't accidentally do it. So, look into things and start planning. Get yourself a solar generator. Pick up more solar panels. Look into solar. Look into wind power. Look into satellites, especially the ones that can move. You know, a big, huge, giant dish in your backyard may be great in your backyard, but you sure can't take that sucker to the woods with you, can you? And now, for all you tree huggers out there, I got real bad news. Look at guns. Yes, I know, those evil guns. But look into guns. You're going to need one. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Or you're going to need somebody that has a gun to keep you safe from those other people. Look at guns. Maybe we'll do an episode one day where I'll talk about the different guns out there that I've liked, that I think of, the ones I dream of, the guns I really want, and why I want them. But the point is, you need to prepare. And you can't do that if you don't start thinking about the problem. If you don't think in advance and start getting your plans, then when all hell breaks loose, you're going to be caught flat-footed. And Publius really doesn't want you to be caught flat-footed. Unless, of course, you're a tree-hugging Democrat. Then go ahead. We will call that a new stroke of evolution. Because survival of the fittest will definitely wipe out a lot of you whiners. All right, I know this has just been a random whatever came to my mind moment. Why? Because I felt like it. And that's the great thing about when you control your own channel, is you do what you feel like. I know most of the time I tend to harp about what comes up in politics and what's hit the news, but sometimes you need to stop and think about it and see what happens if this is going to continue. I told you way back in the beginning, I would try to bring up preparations and things that you could do to make your life better. I'll give you a real quick little survival point for you to think about. Beans and rice. What are you talking about, Publius? Beans and rice. Dried beans, pinto beans, have a shelf life of forever. Rice has a shelf life of forever. All you got to do is keep them in airtight containers. Now, a simple bag of rice, not too expensive. Same thing with a bag of beans, not expensive. So every time you go to the store to do your shopping for the week or the month, pick up a couple of bags. Throw them in an airtight tote. Save them up. Why? Because if you have beans and you have rice, you can eat. Then you take your rifle, go out, pop yourself a deer. You got beans, rice, and meat. This ain't a bad deal. Think about it, folks. You need to start thinking about the future and where your future is going to lead to. And if you've got beans, you've got rice, and a few other food staples that will survive, then you're okay. You will at least have a chance. And that's all anybody really wants is a chance. And that has been today's episode of Countdown to Armageddon. I am Publius. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. If you've enjoyed today's show, hit the like button. If you haven't liked today's show, hit the like button. Bottom line, hit the like button. Why? Because I asked you to. It's good for me. It'll make me feel better. Either way, folks, hit the like button.